Hello, and welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast, 00Status. I am one of your hosts. What do I got, a 553? Hello. How's it going? And with me is the, Sushi B. How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing.
You don't get a
today.
redo here. You don't get to intro twice. You only intro once.
Yes, the only intro once. There'll be no superlatives, no.
I've lost all my ranks and all my
Yep. Stripped down.
lowly bottom feeding agent. I'm like placed between a plant and like something in a coffee shop, and I'm literally just waiting for some. Can you please wait for the next whatever secret agent to walk through and hand over this letter? That's literally my only job.
That's where you're at right now.
Demoted.
Oh no. But yeah, how you doing today?
Other than a little bit of congestion here, which I hope I can hold off and not sound too nasally and plugged up. Not too bad. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. A bit on the Tucker outside. I've been up since 5 a.m. and yeah.
Here we are in the late hour.
Yeah, late hour indeed. It's past my bedtime. I'm old.
Well, let's see how engaged we can be for this discussion, and hopefully enough to get through. Hopefully more engaged than perhaps Sean Connery was for this film.
I think part of that comes from how it seems like he just got really tired with dealing with all of the hoopla.
The hoopla? Yeah.
Yeah.
You read some of the stories and you're like, okay, yeah, I think he really was at wit's end.
Well, because he was like a truck driver before doing any sort of acting or anything?
I'm not sure. I don't know Sean Connery's whole trajectory to get to this point.
I think he was a like a delivery guy or something.
Mm-hmm.
So to go from doing that to then acting and then all of a sudden being, oh my goodness, James Bond.
Megastar.
Right, to where they are like pestering him to no end, and he's not even able to just enjoy his lunches because he's just being hounded.
Right. Well, wasn't there something he went to the bathroom, right, and people were trying to get photos of him there and stuff? Like it was just constant.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, we're done.
Right.
I'm good.
Right.
So I really don't fault him too much for being like, that whole thing, what was that after Thunderball that you said on Her Majesty's Secret Service? Well, I'm definitely not doing that. So you guys can find somebody else because I'm not in the mood.
Yeah. Which is referenced at the end of this movie, though. There is a Bond will return for On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So people probably got pretty excited after seeing the movie. Because there was a lot of talk that this was the end, and there's kind of like these rumblings that there might not be any more after this at that point, and so forth. So, and I don't know if that was just a marketing tool to really hype up and get people out to watch the movie or not, or if there really was a actual possibility of that happening because they weren't sure if Connery was going to come and if they had a plan in place or how that all came about.
I mean, it could have been that. I mean, it also could have just been the sensible thing of just seeing how the spy craze really started kicking off.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, I don't really need to talk to the man from U.N.C.L.E.
Mm-hmm.
I like Mission Impossible, the old Mission Impossible TV series.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like that series. Not to say the movies are bad or anything, but
just different. Right? They're much more of the sort of grandiose, and the TV show wasn't quite like that.
Yeah,
just different.
There's a lot of clever involved, trickeration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just all that sort of spy stuff, and then just be like, okay, I'm good. I'm really done. We're really done with the spy thing.
Mm-hmm. No spy, and yeah, just sorry, getting back to that point you just said, the spy genre has just changed a lot, right? There's a lot more action heavy, and just it's the whole film industry's changed. So the spy thing just more was like, yeah, look at the early ones in this franchise, right? Where you made some really great observations about how Bond would check his hotel, and that really started to get taken away, like as these movies started to kind of carry forward, just things like that just didn't seem to matter. It's just keep pressing the narrative forward.
Right. And it's just like, oh, it's kind of neat though. I mean, it does happen to some degree here and there, but it's maybe less of, it's like you said, it's more of trying to go, where it's like, yeah, sometimes you gotta let it simmer. You don't, the water doesn't boil right away. It's gotta heat up to it.
Right. Yep.
But am I supposed to take the reins for this one?
I was. It's funny. About a couple hours ago, I was thinking about that. I thought, typically that means you would do the score. I assume so. So I know I did pick the last movie, so this was just sort of, there was no choice by this point. But I kind of thought, well, I guess it makes sense if you take the leads, just simply because the last one.
Kind of, right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what it looks like for the very last one. I have no idea. I guess I have to take the reins on that one. I don't know. Yep. We'll talk about it later.
But yeah. So You Only Live Twice is we had done this one early on, and then it got lost to the ether.
Wow, but, I don't even remember that. So you have a way better memory and recollection of that. I do not remember that.
Oh.
There's other ones that are quite vivid that I know, that I remember.
And then this one's just kind of like,
Well, I guess we did that many that I didn't even recall that this was clumped in there. Like A View to a Kill is very vivid. Like I remember we watched and talked about that one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple that really stand out, but for some reason I didn't even realize we had done this one.
Yeah, that might speak to about this movie here.
It's a pretty polarizing movie, it seems like, in the community. You have some people that are, and it's not a huge group, but you do have some people that really like it, and then you have a lot more that are just like, they seem to find all the things that they dislike about it and can really, I wouldn't say trash the movie, but can really bring it down and be like, this is why I don't like it.
Yeah, it's like it's I could see that. It really goes in a direction, and you're like, I don't know about this. And then it just sticks in that direction. You're like, oh, well, okay, I guess this is where we're going. And some people that it's just not. It just doesn't work. Now, do you have any early recollections of this movie? Because, quite honestly, at this point, I really don't remember early notions of it. I really just remember the last time we had kind of watched it. So,
okay.
Like, I don't really, nothing sticks in my head to be like, oh yeah, I remember watching this when I was younger.
Fair enough. This is the first James Bond movie I ever purchased with my own money.
Okay.
So, not the first one I ever watched, but the first one I ever purchased. And I remember watching this, it must have been, when television used to just randomly put stuff on like late at night to fill time?
Right.
And it could be literally anything, right? Like any movie, as long as it was, appropriate enough to show, like it wasn't super rated R where there's a lot of violence or whatever. You could be watching a random drama one night. You could be watching Bond the next night. You could be watching whatever, right? Like a huge Hollywood blockbuster the next night. Like it could be literally anything. And for whatever reason, this is one of those movies that I seen at whatever, 1 o'clock in the morning to 3:30 or whatever the time was, something like that. Don't know if it was a weekday or weekend or, irrelevant, but I remember seeing it really late at night, and for whatever reason, just really getting into it. I don't know why I was up that late and why it was on, but I was just like, oh yeah, like I remembered it. And this was the first one I ever bought with my own money. The cover was horrible. It was like a superimposed Sean Connery face, and clearly somebody else's hands, like a hand model's hands, holding the gun. I have to see if I can find the image for you, and it would be good to put in the slides if I can find it. But it's so abundantly clear, like it's so bad. It's such a bad cover. But so those would be my early recollection or moments that I remember about this one.
Okay. Yeah, I can't really. I'm like drawing a blank. I really don't remember anything early about this movie. Mm-hmm. Off the top of my head. I mean, I can vaguely remember the song.
Okay.
But I think it's more because of it's Nancy Sinatra mm-hmm. as opposed to anything to do with Bond. So
okay.
Yeah.
I think I came across the alternative song for this movie. I can't remember who the singer is now. Anyway, it's fine, and it was like, oh, it's okay. Like I don't know why they chose this over that or whatever, but it was like alternative is fine. It's not. We've seen some other alternatives that are really, really great or really, really bad, and you're glad they didn't choose them. But I could have seen either or being the choice and being fine with either of the choices myself. So.
I was to say was that yeah, I don't think it's somebody who had sung any other songs, right?
I'm not sure. I really can't remember now. Maybe not.
No, I mean, I don't know. I was kind of, I don't mind the song so much, so it's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I guess we can dabble into what we feel are positives about this movie, and I will have to say the giant volcano set is pretty cool for what it is. Like I think that's the thing that gets memed on a whole bunch.
Yeah.
I think it's where it really starts to get off the rails, and people are like, "Oh, this is kind of silly. It's a volcano." Woo. If I don't know, maybe this is where they quote unquote jump the shark. But it's just an impressive thing. I think it was like 12 stories high.
It's huge, yeah.
It's massive. It's just like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like that's like even just for the most part, just the locations and everything where they're filmed at, I was like, oh, okay, that's neat. That's neat. And maybe just because, living in Japan for a while and stuff, but it's just like, okay. So I'd say locale and sets are a positive for this movie, which is obviously not a great foot to be stepping with, but.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where we get to here, but I agree. I mean, I'd never been to Japan in the 60s, obviously, but it seemed to me like it was able to. Remember when we watched some of these other movies and they're like, this is Macau, like in Skyfall, for example, and you're like, that's obviously not Macau. Like, you're just shoehorning the name and making up a place here, right? Like, it doesn't feel, okay, just because Macau's casinos, that's not an excuse enough to be like, it's clearly Macau kind of thing. Whereas here,
wink.
Yeah, here, like, you can see they've done some research here to do some shots in certain areas and stuff, and it seems to kind of capture what I assume Japan would have been like in the 60s, and still to this day, some small elements of just, bright lights, flashing lights, some of the buildings, and like the way you pull up to the buildings, and I mean, there's no rickshaws anymore and stuff. But
they do
I don't know
have
if there were in the 60s, but.
Right. I think it's probably the same.
More of a tourist thing, though. So.
Yeah.
Like I think they were implying this was normal still to ride in a rickshaw in the 60s was how I kind of viewed it when watching. But just showing some of like the the idea of like how important technology and that advancement piece is to the nature of like big city Japan, at least. I kind of feel like that they did a not bad job of capturing that, and it didn't feel cheesy like in some of the other movies we've seen, where like going to India per se in Octopussy, right?
Right.
Where it just kind of felt like, here we are, you have to see all this stuff that's culturally relevant to the country, and it doesn't
all
overstep.
back to back real quick.
Yeah, all back to back. Yeah, and all in like in a comedic way too.
Right,
Whereas,
right.
yeah, this just, it feels a little unnatural at points, like, but for the most part, yeah, I feel like it flows pretty well, other than Bond sticking out really badly, and nobody like caring that he's there. When I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the truth in Japan, but it's also kind of not the truth.
Right. Especially, somebody of Connery's stature.
Yeah, he's not a small man, so.
Right.
Yeah. So that feels a little bit, but that's kind of similar to when we did Tomorrow Never Dies, and remember there's the scene where Pierce is just wandering around in Vietnam. Yeah, and you're like, he just doesn't feel right. But truthfully, there are moments when you're in a country and you're just like, you do feel like nobody could care less about you. But then there are other moments where you're like, wow, I really stick out here. But even little things like Connery putting on the assassin putting on the mask and stuff, right? Like, that's relevant now because with the world has changed and people wear masks and stuff. But in those days, you would never see somebody wear a mask like that in North America, for example. Like, you never would. So just little details like that I thought they are showing bits of like culture, things that are part of the norm.
Yeah, and I didn't even mind the setup and stuff of like the more traditional houses and stuff. Because I always think, oh, that'd be really, in certain ways, really nice. But then it's like, where is your insect netting? Why do you not have any netting? What are you bad people doing?
Have a hard
Why?
time sleeping. Yeah, of course, I'm sure there's some oversight stuff for sure. But again, just for me, I felt like, okay, this does a decent job of capturing. And again, it must have felt quite, quote unquote, foreign to non-Asian residents to see these locales, because previously all we really got was Europe and the United States and some of the Caribbean. So it was a very different setting for sure.
Another positive. It's cool that Tetsuro Tamba is in the movie. As good old Tiger Tanaka.
I like Tiger.
Well, I mean, Tamba was, big actor at the time as well, so it's pretty neat that we got him in there and stuff. So, like, I don't know. I would say at best the characters and actors involved this time around, bit of a mixed bag.
Yep, that's fair. I assumed a lot of dubbing. Unfortunately.
Right.
So that obviously changes the performance to some degree. Right.
Like they actually flipped Aki and
they did, yeah.
Kissy's characters because Mie just was having a really, really hard time speaking, but Akiko was able to kind of get the hang of it and everything.
Didn't she threaten though too? She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna commit suicide or something, right? If I'm not." I believe that as the story goes, or something.
Mie was asked because she wasn't getting it to like, hey, this ain't gonna work. And then that's when she threatened that, and then that's when they're like, oh, let's flip the roles then. Let's do that. So they probably made it a little bit more front heavy for. Well, I could be wrong. I'm saying like they could have gave a little bit more padding to Aki's character and stuff, and then kind of chipped away it because I hate saying this thing. Kissy is not in the movie.
Not very much.
You're right.
No.
Not in
and Aki's just way more intriguing character too. She just has a lot more to do. She just seems a lot more competent. She's more direct. Like there's just little bits of everything that make her a more interesting character. But because Kissy not who Bond marries in the novels and has the son with?
Oh boy,
I believe he marries Kissy, and that's where his son is born shortly after.
Right, James Bond Jr. Right.
James Bond Jr. Is that what we're following this up with? Is James Bond Jr.?
Yes,
I don't remember it super well, but
I don't either.
It's very 90s, even in the neon orange font and everything. Like very 90s. Didn't he have like a stun gun or something instead of so he wouldn't kill anybody or something?
I think so. Something that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. That's when young Indiana Jones, they were really trying to keep those franchises going, right? With young versions and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, that's fair. I think that Tigers is pretty cool, and some of the other side even characters are. Yeah.
Number 11 isn't so bad. Number 11, outside of just the weird things she kind of does,
she makes some weird choices.
Yeah, like less the weird choices, just how she's portrayed. It's not so bad. I absolutely love Osato.
Osato's good.
he is fantastic.
Yeah, he's good.
He's just like just that. He's got that great like veneer of yeah, he's doing good. Okay, all right, kill him.
Yeah.
like oh no. So.
Well, he's Mr. Tough Guy until Blofeld shows up, right? Right. Yes, he's just a total yes man at that point.
Right, and I actually kind of forgot that, like,
Blofeld's in this.
Well, not that he's in it, but just how stilted he comes off. He's almost like robotic. Yeah, like I completely forgot that's how he gets betrayed in this. Like he comes off as not to like rail on anybody, he comes off very autistic. Like I just don't have another way to explain it. Like he's just like really, really particular.
Yeah, I don't think they had a really good handle on Blofeld just as a whole, because one, you had all these different actors playing because they couldn't seem to figure out what they wanted to do. It appears that way. Like from Russia with Love, there's a certain way that the character is portrayed, and then you get to did that character come up in Goldfinger? I don't think so, but in Thunderball. And just again, Thunderball feels different again, and I'm pretty sure it's a different actor at that point. And now you're at a third actor for this. They just seem to not really. Yeah, they just kind of. We have to introduce this
like
grand scheme villain, but
right. The weird thing is that Charles Gray is probably the best performer of.
I don't agree with that. I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know.
He's not the worst, but I don't know if he's the best. I like Donald Pleasance here. Like I'm okay that he's kind of chop like the way he talks and stuff. I like that because it feels like he's got to be this calculating, like you said, like a robot essentially to run this organization. And I like his introduction quite a lot, actually. I don't like the location so much. Like the location feels a little underwhelming. Like you almost feel like it should be this big, like set piece that they're going to do it, but they're just like in this tiny little, not observation room. What would you call that
like
space?
A control room.
Yeah, like a control room, and so that's a little underwhelming. But the camera work is really good. Like how It has what's the henchman's name? Why is the henchman's name escaping me? The big guy.
They really don't mention him.
No, they don't really.
He's just kind of there. He's like, what, Hans or something? It's something generic.
Yeah, I think Hans. Like... I think it is very generic. But he falls in line with, the tall, strong, like, kind of German, villain, because we've had Necros, we've had...
well, it's the echoes of
the iconic,
Nazism
typical...
and stuff like that.
Sure. And who's the one from Tomorrow Never Dies? That guy, too, right? Very similar, like, all those characters look quite similar. But, yeah, I just like how he kind of just, like, pushes them out of the way. And he's got a great look, right? Like you could say, it's that typical, he's got to have a scar, he's got to have a blemish of some kind. But I like the look. I think it's a good sort of reveal. It's compelling. And then the problem is then Connery just looks like, okay, like his face is just, he doesn't sell it at all. Like
he's just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, like he's just like, he doesn't really sell it all. But I like the tone of voice, the speed of the speech. Like I like it. I just like it. It gets, unfortunately, that after that iconic reveal, it goes a little downhill from there, right? Like it's the silliness of like he could have shot him and then he's just waiting on the thing and like but we'll
come
get
over
into that.
To this area.
Yeah, it's like you had him like in a completely quiet area with no one there to potentially disrupt, you killing him, but. I don't know. We'll get into that after. But I like the reveal, and I like the reveal of the title. Like it's cool that Blofeld gets to say the title. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I don't know. I guess it's the. Yeah, which is better, that almost robotic way or the like
over the top Charles Gray.
Well, yeah. I mean, you go that. I mean, that's where I'm kind of like, you're gonna ham it up.
Mm-hmm.
Go full ham,
please.
Inject some life into this dying series kind of vibe.
Yeah, and that's why we got Diamonds Are Forever.
Say, it could be a whole lot worse.
Well, we get Blofeld after this again though in On Her Majesty's, and another completely different performance.
Yeah.
At least they tried to keep the look the same.
Like
we had another guy, with the shaved head. And then we get to Charles Gray, and he looks completely different again.
He was just incognito that whole time. Those were fakes.
Well, he was.
They were fakes.
Because it was Henderson all along.
Yes, exactly. He staged his...
And his incredible acting of like, it's off the coast of... and then just standing with his mouth open. Like, that's something you would definitely see in like a 60s movie, right? Of somebody getting killed and just standing there and not moving.
Yeah, that is such a weird way to
present
that out. Yeah.
Not like a scream and a... Yeah, it's very... I guess you could argue, we hit him at a perfect pressure point. That's, I don't know. You can make dumb arguments for sure, but it is a bit of a weird choice. It's a bizarre choice, though, to present the death in that fashion. But, back to positives.
Oh, yeah, so... Yeah, at least some of the characters are positive on that front.
Mm-hmm.
I like the gyrocopter thing.
The little Nelly?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's really neat.
Pretty neat.
The filming for that, unfortunately, went fairly sideways, as one of the film, like the cameraman, ended up losing a foot / a leg.
Oh.
From catching, from the blade, from one of the blades catching his foot. Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
These poor stuntmen, like you.
Well, it wasn't even a stuntman, it was a cameraman.
Oh, jeez.
Like, yeah, and
Wow.
yeah, because the updraft when he flew underneath one of them. I think it was from the gyrocopter when it flew underneath one of the helicopters because of the updraft of it. It caught the blades up and yeah, it's pretty
You've brought up some of these other, like gruesome injuries with some of these people. I don't know. That might be near the top if it's not like to fully lose a limb.
To add to that cameraman, he ended up, recovering, after they tried to save his leg and it just wasn't working. So they amputated the leg, and he continued filming for a few years. And then in a tragic accident, I don't remember exactly what movie it was. I think he fell out of the plane.
Oh wow!
And he died.
So was this like his specialty was to do like air filming?
Yeah, he was. Okay. Yeah, he was kind of the guy to do the aerial shots and stuff. Oh, wow. Like a lot of So
I guess it's a risk you take if that's the type of work you're doing. I guess, right? Like being in the air and stuff. Wow, that's too bad.
It's just, it was.
The Henderson leg thing wasn't in. Like, I don't mean this at all as a joke, but that wasn't like
that was
like meant to be like we're put this in as like a sorry or like we want to recognize you or something.
Nobody at least admitted to that. I don't know if that was even a.
Yeah, like I don't mean it at all as a joke. Just like I don't know if that's actually meaning anything for to represent for this person or
not that I'm aware of.
Oh, that's really sad to hear. But as you said, I agree. I think it's really cool, and for the most part, it's fairly coherent, which I was really surprised by. Like it's still not perfect, but for the 60s, I was like, this is fairly coherent in like some of the shots, and some of them are bad. Well, some of them are bad. Like it's the 60s, so I recognize that. But some of the like the shots where Bond's supposed to be flying away and then he notices the shadows behind him. So I was like, some of them are really cool shots, like to see that in the sky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to stop and then. Oh, they're just floating in the air. Oh, the bombs.
Yeah, there's definitely a few like models and stuff, right? When like he drops the little grenade bombs, and then you can see it's a model helicopter that's blowing up and stuff. But honestly, for the most part, I was fairly impressed that they were able to get as much as they did for that sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure, again, not only barring this man's injury, was probably pretty challenging. And some pretty innovative kind of kills there too. I know some people make, oh, it's too silly, it's too over the top, but it's like, okay, you got a guy getting blowtorched from a mini helicopter. That's pretty creative.
Yeah, that's certainly something.
And look, GoldenEye stole the missile thing, like the reverse missiles coming back or whatever. It's basically the same idea.
Right.
But at the time, it must have been kind of cool in the 60s, and like, oh, that's pretty neat, right? Like, it's kind of cool that they flip around and blow up the things behind them.
Yeah, that's certainly something.
And of course, it's animated or however they did it, but I was like, yeah, it's a kind of fun idea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Little Nelly is a neat, and that's a real helicopter, right? Like they could use that, which is pretty neat. And I know now people will be like, oh, that's not that impressive, but we're talking 60 years ago now. So
well, and that was the thing as well, is that from what I remember, it was something over the radio that they heard about, and they're like, oh, we want to get that in there. Like, let's make this happen, kind of thing. So.
It's cool that Q comes out to prep it all and everything too. It's like his only scene's short, but
it's short.
Still pops up here.
I mean, to be fair, this movie is also a bit on the shorter end. Anyways, it's less than 2 hours.
Yeah, it's just surprising again for the hype or they were trying to put around this. You'd figure it'd be a little over that 2 hour mark. But maybe there's a lot of stuff they ended up on.
Connery is like, I'm done. I'm not even.
That could be it, or just cutting room floor. They ended up cutting on stuff they didn't feel fit within the whole film. Back to the aerial thing, if you don't mind. The rooftop chase fight / scene, I also really enjoy. I was like, that's, again, I feel that's quite impressive for the 60s. And it's, again, fairly coherent. Like, they obviously planned that out pretty well, like to the helicopter going around and just the way I don't think that's Connery, is it? That's actually running and doing the stuff. Like, at the tail end it is, but the far shot, is it Connery? Or do you think it's Connery?
I have no idea.
Whoever it is,
I'm
whoever's
honestly
playing Bond in the moment.
I'm not a very good one to be like, oh yes, I can totally.
It's far away enough that it's pretty hard to tell. But like the actors, like they're getting punched and they're like laying and they're not moving like in anything. Like I thought it's kind of cool. It's something different that we didn't really see in previous movies.
No, it's shot well and it's not. You don't really catch a lot of silliness. Surprisingly enough, so.
Yeah, like the silliest thing would be him doing that like perfect leap into the boxes, like where he does the little backflip thing.
Yeah, like
and then
what?
When the other actor jumps off, and then Connery just walks straight out. The stunt double does all the jumps. But again, it's not horrible by any means. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, that's about the worst part of that scene is him just jumping off of the things onto
nonchalantly walking away.
Well, it's like, yeah, I don't think I would chance jumping onto that thinking that they're going to be cushioning my blow.
Right. Well, I guess if you're going to take that jump, though, you probably would jump, more likely jump towards your back or whatever, I would guess.
Oh, I have no idea.
But yeah, I don't know either. But I'm thinking if I jump from a high height, generally speaking, I think the human mind isn't like, yeah, put your head first or put the front of your chest first. It's more like your back can probably take more damage.
I would think
I don't know.
You do the old springing roll, right? Where you don't land on your feet, but you land on them enough to tumble.
Well, parkour was still a few years out from this.
Hey, now, you never know.
Yeah, you never know. They obviously must have been the technique at the time or whatever, but it's weird that you would think they would have wanted to maybe have a bit of a gadget there, right? Something that would, like in GoldenEye when he had the belt to swing across, you almost think there would have been something for Bond to showcase at that point to get down instead of just jumping.
Yeah, it was very, gadgets were kind of, it's because you had ninjas.
Yeah, the biggest gadget
were the gadget.
Really is just for gadget. Inspector Ninja instead of Inspector Gadget.
Right.
The big thing really is the little Nelly, but I like the little safe unlocker tool.
Yeah,
I like that. I thought that was kind of cool.
That was pretty neat. I liked Tanaka's train base, so to say. I like that private train.
Yeah, me too. That's cool.
Idea. I was like, that's a pretty clever way to go about it. I don't really care for the ninja training base thing, but we can get into that a little bit later.
I like the rocket cigarette. That's a pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's clever because he's a smoker and stuff. It's like, we should do something with the smoking thing. Like, it's a pretty clever way to mask a weapon for Bond to use, and nobody more or less thinking anything other than he's just smoking. It's like, I would believe that, right? They know Bond, he's a smoker, but they wouldn't suspect anything. And that guy gets ripped through pretty good. Hey, that just like right through him.
Well, and it's like why Bond wasn't put to death right there.
No, that's just it. Yeah, like
that's
probably should have killed a couple of points.
All right.
That final sequence, but that's all right.
Let's see other things that.
Yeah, they couldn't have gone with "You Only Live 5 Times, Mr. Bond" or something. Wouldn't have worked. It doesn't have quite the same ring to it.
I like I mentioned before, I like the theme song.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I think it's a good theme song.
Yep.
The accompanying opening credit video, it's not surprising.
Okay.
Like it's not like bad or anything. It's not surprising given the time and really like leaning heavy into Japan and stuff. You're like, okay, it's certainly better than trampoline jumps or silhouetted skiing.
or just the performer in a music video.
Right. I would also say it's another one that's kind of gratuitous with some of its like silhouettes. Like there's a lot of nipplage going on at times there. You're like, oh man, gracious.
They were really trying to push that envelope in those and being able to be like, well, this is art.
Yes,
it's
art.
The worst one I still think is what was the one now? Was it Spy Who Loved Me? That was quite a lot. I think it's Spy Who Loved Me that was quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like and it's not even quite silhouetted. It's almost like there you
Bam.
go. Yeah, like there you go. It's right in front of you.
Right.
I agree. I do like the motif for the credits. I do like it. I like just the idea of it's simplistic, but I like that it's simplistic in this way. And I like the song because it is quite different than all of the previous songs.
Mm.
It doesn't really feel like it's a Japanese song per se. Like there's nothing that stands out to be, oh yes, that's of Eastern
just like
Asian.
that opening.
Yeah.
That opening, like the kind of similar to like Phrygian. The Phrygian scale sounds very like Egyptian, or like what we a lot of times will think, oh, that sounds Egyptian. You kind of have a little bit of that.
A little, but not so much to the point it's beating you over the head, right? But like it feels a little bit like you get a hint of that, an Eastern Asian musical influence, but it's just enough. Like it's not. They could have really gone overboard, I guess, and they didn't. So
right.
And I like the composition as it's played in several points in the movie. There's a couple of points where like maybe it doesn't quite fit here in a couple of the action scenes because they're trying to speed it up and it doesn't quite fit. But just as a melody, like it fits in lots of parts that I'm like, I'm okay with this being put in here lots. Like it doesn't bug me. And as a whole, I think the score is actually pretty good here. I like the space theme with the, as it's getting louder with the, I don't know, what would you call that? That sort of space shuttle that's eating the other space shuttles. Like, I don't really know what to call that, but that music sticks out to me a lot. Like, I don't know why. Like, it's memorable, the music in that moment. Yeah, I think the score is pretty good here. Yeah, I've happened to find you a copy of the score, which was interesting. I found that at I believe it was at a garage sale, and I hung on to, what did I tell you, like 4 years or something? I had it for quite a while. So I could finally get something, little package together to send out to you, and I finally was able to throw it in there.
And you said it had been a good deal of time there.
It definitely did some time. But kind of cool to have an old Bond CD.
Right.
If it was a record, that would have been even more neat. But well, just like as a keepsake, it would be really neat. But I was like, oh, this is still pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. It's a very solid, good soundtrack there, and it doesn't really, for the most part, it doesn't sound like, oh, this is a little out of place. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, this is good. Mm-hmm. This is good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
sliding into a little bit less good and more. Not that it's awful, but it's kind of a head scratcher.
Mm-hmm.
Is why is Dahl writing the? Why is Roald Dahl tabbed to write this? Is beyond me. Yes.
I don't know, but it is an interesting just footnote in history kind of thing to think that. For those who don't know, the Roald Dahl is probably most famous. Would you say Charlie and the Chocolate Factory would probably be the most famous work?
Maybe. I don't know what else. Let's see.
He's done like the BFG, the Big Friendly Giant. He's done Witches. He's done, what else is coming to mind? James and the Giant Peach.
Giant Peach would probably be another top contender for.
I would probably lean that Charlie and Chocolate Factory is probably the most well known of his works.
I mean, that's yeah. It's probably that. I know Big Friendly Giant. Mm-hmm. Let's see what other ones that I like. That one, James and Giant Peach. Mm-hmm. Matilda.
Oh right, he did Matilda, and lots of his books have become movies.
Yeah.
At some point or another.
So, like...
I don't know if there's a backstory there as to how he got tabbed to screenplay this, but it's just interesting.
Yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox, I think was another one.
Oh, okay.
So, like, it's...
Yeah, all of those have been movies. That's what I'm thinking about it.
So, yeah, like... I don't know. It's just a really odd choice. I mean, I think he was friends with Fleming.
Okay.
Which doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Lose a bet or something with him?
I don't.
Got tabbed to do it, or?
I mean,
owed him a solid.
Like look like Christopher Lee, you know. Mm-hmm. It seems to be anybody who's like very closely connected to Fleming when it comes to these movies might not.
It's a chance.
Well, the less it gets a chance, but it might not like quite translate as well as you think. It's so. I mean, it's not like it's bad as the for the screenplay and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just it's missing something. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's missing a bit more of. I don't know.
It's just missing an engaged Connery.
Well, that certainly plays into it. Mm-hmm. But I guess and maybe it's just because of already knowing about it and stuff, but like it doesn't quite feel like the facade of, like the mystique is there for the baddies. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's just, like I said, because I've seen it and everything, but it just feels like something. There's not a lot of hooks to latch on to be like, oh, okay. I feel like I'm playing that Donkey Kong Country 2 sword boss there in the volcano, and I'm stuck on one side. I can't get to the other side. That's what it kind of feels like.
I can see that. They have some elements that are good in their projection when they're on screen, but I do see where you're coming from, especially with number 11 that you mentioned earlier, that she probably could have been more of that femme fatale or what have you, and been a little bit more nefarious, I guess, because she doesn't come across that at the beginning when they introduce her. Then she suddenly talking about how she's got all these tools to torture Bond with, right? Where she's got I don't even know half of those items what they would be called, but there's just a lot of cutting tools and stuff for plastic surgery or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then flips the script to just be like, no, I'm good. I'll just sleep with you.
and then eject out of a
eject out of an airplane,
within the
which he
course
just
of...
chops a piece of board together. Holds him in place with a piece of board.
Which, that is all of about 7 minutes.
Her death is good. Like, I like her death scene. Just how just abrupt it is, and just, you know, the price for failure, and then you're almost expecting it to be a different character, not her. So I like that. And it looks like it's more like acid than
than they're being provided.
Yeah, like it looks like it's acid, like that it's just melting away somebody. But whatever, that's fine. Right? It doesn't really matter.
That and the it's really getting bothersome, and you've got to be asking yourself, if you're a part of the Spectre organization, that you're now hitting double digits and
you're down to number 11.
Yeah, you're down to number 11. I mean, I get that there's like number 4's around somewhere and number 3 somewhere, I think it's a number
2 is
4.
Largo, so he's gone.
Right.
5 was the guy from Rush with Love. What was his name? You know who I'm talking about, though? The chess
see
player.
His face.
Yeah. He was like too overconfident. Kleb. What number was Kleb, though? Anyways, several of the numbers. I think there was still like 1 or 2 single digits that we didn't see. We'd have to go back and double check all of them, but I don't remember there being a 7.
I don't think there was a 9. Well, no. 9 might have got brought up in
maybe we'd have to go back and
in Thunderball,
check them all or whatever. But yeah, it's not a good sign when you're and I don't think there was a 10. I don't remember a 10 coming up. So anyways,
more importantly, it's getting troublesome.
You know, those other numbers have been vanquished at this point. Why have you not risen the ranks from 11 to 3? Or well, I think Saito was 3, was he not? He was 3 or 4 or something. But anyways. Yeah, you think
I don't think Osato was.
Osato. Why did I say Osato? I thought he had a number.
I don't think he's
a full-fledged Spectre.
No, I think he's only affiliated.
An affiliate. An affiliate member. I pay my dues once a year. He doesn't have to pay the monthly dues.
Yeah, that's why he was spared, because he wasn't quite. He was.
He wasn't quite incompetent enough to kill.
What's the when you're not like quite hired and you're quote unquote working for free?
Pro quo or pro bono or what?
No. Like you're like an understudy or.
So not freelance, but like a what do you call it? Like in a copy room, like in a newsroom.
Yeah.
Wow, we are. It is late. we should know that word. Someone's yelling at us right now.
Okay.
Intern.
There you go.
Osato's intern.
He's an intern for Spectre.
That would be amazing if you had to wear like a badge. Hi, my name is Osato. I run a big business in Japan, but I can't quite make Spectre.
Right. It's just not quite Spectre material. But yeah. Speaking of which, I will tab one of these, and the other one can go away. But at least one of the fights, like close-up fights, the one where he's in Osato's office.
Yep.
I like that one.
Me too.
One's a pretty rough and tumble kind of fight.
Yeah.
There.
I love this. That guy. He seems to me maybe he's Samoan or something. I don't really. He could be Japanese. I'm not really sure, but he's just got he's just a big man, right? And I just love when he's like getting hit. He's just like like he's absorbing all the blows and stuff.
Right.
Before finally getting hit with that statue. But it's like how he just shoves the sofa, and Bond's like trying to, basically battering ram him with it. He just throws it away like it's nothing. Yeah, I like that. I like the escape from there too, like just how he just kind of tucks away and gets in the elevators. I like it's not like super fancy or special or anything, but I just like that he does get what he's looking for by breaking the code and he's what's the drink that he has and he looks so miserable after he takes
it's type I think it's a vodka from somewhere.
Yeah, but he's just like, oh, that's horrible. That certainly played a lot better than Foo Yuck from.
Right.
That still bothers me when he's like, Foo Yuck, and then isn't it like 20 minutes later he's sitting in bed alone and he's just like, Foo Yuck again.
Thank you for the gift that keeps on giving.
I hope Roger Moore was the one who implied that, we really have to make a Foo Yuck joke. This case, it's played a lot better, right? Of just he just went through a bad fight and, he needs something to kind of calm his nerves and he drinks something that's not really going down too smooth.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of like that escape piece.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And then it gets echoed by one of the most bonkers, awful pieces. Can we start going into the bad things here?
The silly back alley chase?
So the chase is fine, but why are you 10 feet from the guy and then you're like, we're going to get the gun out, we're going to shoot you.
Yeah.
And then Aki's out of nowhere, because that's another thing, is Aki appears out of nowhere 4 or 5 times.
She does.
Where you're I mean, in one hand, okay.
She's the guardian angel.
Evidently. That's why Bond loved her so much. Because she's like, wow, you have saved my butt so many times. But
he didn't seem he loved her so much. He didn't seem too distraught when she dies.
well, right. No. That's
on to the next.
Pretty much. Yeah, he's just like, oh.
She is very sexyful.
Oh, God.
That line still cracks me up.
It's a pretty good line. I'm not gonna lie.
It's so, you're kind of expecting a goofy line, but it's the delivery, it's the whole scene of just between the girl, at her ankles, like Connery's face, it's everything in the scene. She's very sexyful. I've never heard that used in that way before either. So
it's such a great.
Cracks 60s, me up.
That's a 60s word right there. That's very sexyful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole just kind of the repeating, I think, is what gets to me a little bit. Mm-hmm. It feels like there's a lot of repetition where Aki just appears out of nowhere in her pretty sweet looking car, but at right at the parking lot, the same stretch of parking lot over and over, especially with the car right there. It's just so annoying. Why are you tailing somebody who's walking 8 feet away? Just oh my God! Shoot him from the building or something. I don't know. It's so. I don't know who thought that this was the appropriate way to do this, but it's just so it's just an aggravation.
What do you think? Because there's quite a bit of night stuff in this movie, and I know you do tend to like some of that. Did you mind that in this movie?
I didn't mind it, but it was off-putting towards the end when somebody dropped the camera in oil or something. It's just, it's dark all of a sudden. Right, it's nighttime. Right. It's it was literally
pretty daytime just before, and then they get in the boat and it's sunset already.
Well, that or when they're heading up the volcano and then all of a sudden they're at the base, right at the base of going over the lip and everything, and then they go through and it's it is. It took you 10 hours to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he said it's a big hike, so.
Well, but she also got out of there pretty quickly.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think she had any tools hidden in that bikini to get her down any faster.
No.
That's a pretty tiny bikini she's wearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Goodness.
I like the scene where Bond's pretending to be sick.
Oh.
Like after he kills the assassin, and he's just like,
right.
oh, he's making this random, like, had one too many cup ramen.
Well, but it's like, how does the driver, the same guy he just fights right after this, how does he not realize that it's like, man, you are like
dying back there, and he doesn't even check him.
well, less the dying and more you are a lot taller. Why are you so much bigger?
Well, remember he was kind of hunched as he was running to the car, though, so maybe that was supposed to imply like that he couldn't.
Less that. I know that Connery does that, especially when he becomes Japanese. He kind of goes into more of a hunched.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to put it.
He's almost like his shoulders are pinched up.
Yeah.
Maybe he was uncomfortable in the clothes. I don't know. Who knows? Or maybe they told him. Maybe
I think
to be that way.
I think he's trying to
sort of blend in somehow, kind of.
Somehow,
not really.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I like the when he takes off the mask though, just good evening. I like that. I like that line. Right, Connery does that in another movie too, does he not? I'm pretty sure there's another part where he says good evening. But I like it in this particular moment because just how that guy, as soon as his reaction, as soon as he sees that it's not his buddy, and then right into the fight.
I'd say, do you have any other good points that you want to bring up?
No, sir. We're kind of in flow between the bad and the good and the middle.
I was say I feel like I've tapped out on my good. So
let me just quickly review in my mind. Like you said, I like the train thing. I think that's cool.
He made you castle getting a nice little nod, which I have been there before. It is a pretty nice place. It's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. It also was, if I remember correctly, they used that a lot for the Shogun TV miniseries back in the 60s or 70s. The James Clavell novel.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I like the flip here instead of it being like Q-Branch showing gadgets and stuff, that it's in Tanaka's base. Mm-hmm. And I like some of the training, some of the. Now again, this is the 60s, so obviously some of the martial arts are not going to look quite as violent or as natural, if you will, as they do today. But like the sword, the katana display that guy does, like is pretty cool. Like that's not something we would have had a lot of knowledge or seen very much of probably at that point. And it still holds up not bad. Like it's meant to be that choreographed type sequence, so I think it holds up not too bad. The guy gets another kind of short moment to shine when they do. he chops up a couple of
slicing and dicing
bad boys there.
He is the Raiden to Bond's Snake.
Yeah, the guy should have showed up again. Like I assume he escaped. I think they imply like he's a pretty competent, agent that he probably got out to. But yeah, so that guy's pretty cool.
A laser sword to join him up in Moonraker.
Yeah, they should have just given him like a lightsaber or like a Gundam sword or whatever. Wouldn't that have been pretty cool if a Gundam just showed up in Moonraker? Why not? Everything else was already bonkers in there. So yeah, I don't mind. I kind of like that sequence. I think that's kind of cool. And it's not played totally for laughs. Like the Q-Branch stuff often is played for laughs. Mm-hmm. This isn't played quite as much for laughs. Like it's a little more serious. And I like the Bond scene. I love how Connery's got that stupid smirk on his face when he gets disarmed when they're doing the bow staff fight.
Right.
And then just how the guy and it just turns into the blade, and then the death that guy when he gets stabbed like in the hip. And he it's just like the whole the way his body contorts and he's just keels over. That part makes me laugh too. So I like that part too.
Very old style too. It's like they single judo chop puts him out.
Yeah.
Single stab.
Yeah.
puts
a
him
Vulcan
down.
death grip or whatever that. And as much as it pains me to see Aki have to go, I like that she has kind of more of a slow burn style death. Like it's not like just some fiery death, walk away, big deal. It's just more of it's a slower moment. It kind of shows a bit more of it's a bit of a spy element kind of almost, right? Like it's kind of something different. And, the camera work's crap. Because, like, it's so silly how, like, Bond kind of looks like he's under, but he's not. And, like, so the camera work kind of sucks. But, like, the actual moment's kind of cool. And it's kind of bizarre that he just gets up and immediately shoots the guy, like, knowing that he's there. Like, doesn't even second guess or anything. That's kind of silly. But just, like, the moment and the lead up and stuff and the music in that scene and so forth, I like that.
No, yeah, that is fair. It's... Yeah, I need to have we're going to drip poison down a strand or a thread of fabric to drop in there and stuff. And it's like,
and I'm pretty sure that's something that would have happened like long ago, right? Like you always hear of like poisonings for royalty and stuff, but I could see that being a potential technique of not getting in, but being able to get in and do something to somebody.
I mean, the Chinese had that bonkers, like throwing hat thing that was, you'd like attach it to, like, try to get it onto somebody's head and it'd decapitate them. So
Oddjob wasn't too far off.
Well, yeah, I mean, just a little different way of going about it, right? Instead of cutting outward, it cuts inward. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's just some little creative ways of trying to murk people.
Yep.
I will throw this out. I am also kind of curious how Kissy goes from bikini to Kunoichi garb back to bikini. Like
bad editing. Like
right.
And got to keep the sexy girl in a bikini. Is the other answer. Right. Okay, let's be honest. She fills out the bikini well. We can't lie about that. Like she's obviously did her work to be fit for that scene. So.
It's just like editing. Okay, right. You're just like, oh, you could. Gracious.
I also do like the volume and just the scale of the fight that goes on in the base. Like it's not just an immediate. They would just immediately break in. Oh yeah, here we go. Like there's a little build up. It is a little bit silly. Like all those guns are like just mowing those guys down and they barely get in and stuff. But once they get in, it's like for me there's a heightened sense of some excitement of like the guys start coming in and like everyone starts shooting. And
well, here's the thing that bothers me about that is that Bond reunites with Tiger and Kissy, yet he doesn't know of a way to get back into the control room. Like, that's dude, true. You were just there. Like
bad editing again.
Like, oh, well, the technicians are leaving. Go that way. It's right. Like, dude, where did you come from?
Where did you come from? Yeah, Bonsan, how do we get in? Ask the editor.
Right.
That's true. That is a good point. That again, this probably does go back to the editing not doing a good job of trying to connect some of the dots there. And potentially the writing too. But just from the scale, I find that the scale is pretty good there. I like this a lot more than say, and I don't mind even the one in, I was going to say For Your Eyes, not, For the Spy Who Loved Me on the sub. I don't mind that one, but I find this one just a little bit more exciting, even though it's like, 10 years before and whatnot. And there's two reoccurring Bond actors in this. One was, remember when we did Casino Royale and I said that at the very beginning of the movie, the girl that flips the bed that Bond is in is the same actress that's sitting at the table playing cards with Le Chiffre on his boat.
Oh, that's her?
That's her, yeah. That's the same actress.
Ah, okay.
She's quite a bit younger, so it's not, but if you see them, you're like, okay, yeah, I got it, it's her.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty neat that she's reappears here. And I think that actress she's been in other things. Like, I'm sure I've seen her in a lot of other things. And then the other is the guy in the control room in the United States, remember? And he's like, oh, the space shuttle is catching up to our shuttle, like the unidentified shuttle. There's the guy that's on the comm, and that's the guy that's in The Spy Who Loved Me, the captain. It's the same actor.
Oh.
I'll show his picture, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. But that's the same guy that's the captain on the ship, the American ship. Like, that's the same guy. Yeah, it's the same actor, though. But he's in such a small bit here.
I would say, I don't really remember
the image is not good, too, because it's like that he's on that screen talking to them, so it's like a black and white image or whatever. But it's him. Like, you can see that. It's him. So he pops up again. So he got promoted, I guess. I don't know. Got promoted to Admiral or whatever he was in The Spy Who Loved Me. He moved from the space program to the naval program.
I mean, what is water other than more tangible space?
Yeah. Was that the logic for Moonraker?
Yeah, evidently. Not necessarily a negative, but kind of just a thing to throw out there as well is a point for Moore. Moore looks better in the commander suit in the naval get up than Connery does. Yeah, Connery is just kind of like It
just looks fine. Like it's not. Yeah. Moore does fill that suit out a lot better. Brosnan has a moment too at some point, does he not? Yeah, in Tomorrow Never Dies he does, when he has the decoder or whatever, and he looks pretty good in the suit too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we don't get that as much. I don't think Craig ever got into the naval suit, did he? Too busy
swimming out of water.
Battered and bloodied, I guess, too often to be bothered. But yeah, no, that's true. I don't mind the moment of him, like, falling in the water and stuff. Like, it's a total fake out because we've already had Bond, quote unquote, die, in From Russia with Love. So, right away, obviously, from a viewer standpoint, that he's not dead. But I don't think that's the point here. It's meant to, as M implies, this is just to get your enemies off your back, kind of thing.
Right.
So it's not meant to be a shock moment necessarily as a viewer.
Yeah, let's see. Things I don't like, or at least in the middling of the road. I don't hate the pacing, but like I said before, with the repetition stuff, it feels pretty choppy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can see that.
Like, at points it'll be fine, and then it'll get choppy, and then it'll regain its footing, and then it'll be choppy again, and then it just kind of does that dance back and forth for a bit, and then it just falls off the volcano.
Yeah. Well, even the volcano is like that. They get in, you get some action going on, and then it slows down with Bond doing a one-on-one fight, and then it sort of picks up again. There's tigers out there. That fight is awful. It's far too short. Yes, it's not good. And it's almost kind of replaying the earlier fight in the Losato's company or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of mirroring that to some degree, but just with far less. Well, like the furniture and stuff, right? Like this, like I think they tried to kind of mimic the fight to some degree, but it just doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't help that there's no build up for that henchman either. Like you said, he's just there several times. Like, he doesn't.
Nondescript German.
But he doesn't kill anybody before. Like, there's nothing to show that he's a deadly killer, other than the fact that he looks somewhat menacing. But
and that Blofeld trusts him.
Seems to trust him
to be as close as he is, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's too bad that we don't get anything like that, because all these other henchmen, even going back to something like Spectre, right, where Mr. Hinks, right, like you see how vicious this person is right off the bat. Grant, you see how vicious this person is right away, and we just don't get that here. Necros, like lots of those villains.
I take the one dude from The Living Daylights bebopping on his headphones.
Yeah, that's Necros.
Like, oh yeah, that's Necros. Dirt. Who am I thinking of then? That's not Necros. But I was thinking was named Necros. I don't know.
No, Necros is the guy with the headphones.
I know. I'm saying I
in that movie or in another movie?
No, in a different one. My brain thought of somebody else, and I'm like, who the hell am I thinking of then?
There's so many. Oh, there's the guy from For Your Eyes Only, that random German dude, right? Remember the biathlete?
Yes, that's who I was thinking of.
And he throws the motorcycle.
Yes.
Just lifts it up like it's a feather. Chucks it at Roger
Throws him, and Moore's just like, okay, sure, dude.
Yeah, because he's quite far away, isn't he? When he throws at it, I think it's more out of anger than actually trying to hurt him or whatever. But
right, I get it. I throw a motorcycle at Moore too.
If you had the opportunity.
Why did you get 7?
007.
Goodness. Let's see. Who else? Or what else?
Well, what about the space stuff? Like, is that in the middle for you? Do you really hate it? Like, what about that stuff?
I'm so indifferent to it.
Okay.
Like, it's just kind of like, okay, all right. I guess the thing it bothers me is that it's in this volcano, and it's like, who is not hearing this thing? Is the volcano soundproof?
Well, I guess the idea was it was secluded enough, like it was in a secluded enough island. I guess is what it's supposed to be. So.
I guess, but like you hear rockets go off miles away.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's just like, come on now,
stealth rocket.
Stealth rocket, right?
Just has a whole bunch of like black paper on it.
Well, I love how also when was it when they were coming back, when a rocket was coming back in or whatever, or I think it was lift, one of the other, obviously, but you had those henchmen that were sitting behind the truck that's like 50, 60 feet from it.
And they don't
they're just kind of
instantly combust.
They're just kind of looking like, hey, okay.
It's an everyday occurrence. This rocket takes off so often that it's not
seriously
fancy after the 6th, 7th voyage.
Yeah, they're not completely deaf from it or anything like that.
Maybe they are completely deaf. Commencing countdown. No idea what's going on.
Wait, what?
They see people moving around. It's just like, oh, okay, whatever. But you'd be in trouble if nondescript German henchmen came over. Then you'd be in trouble. Can't hear those fat Necros beats?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Those wonderful 80s tunes.
Yeah. I'm kind of, I don't mind it. And again, the scale of the idea of what it would mean, it probably meant more in the 60s to be like, this kind of thing could set up. But it's a bit odd that we've had several shuttles get captured, and the Americans are just shaking their fists like, better not happen again, or else. It's like, really? It just seems a little...
No, I think that's kind of...
But we don't get the scale of it. They're just like, they're literally like shaking their fists like, don't let this happen again. And then like walking away from the table. It does, you don't get it amped up where they're like, until that scene where they're like, get ready for, when the guy from, The Spy Who Loved Me is doing the thing and he's saying like, it's getting closer, it's gonna, get our ship or whatever. Then you kind of get that really heightened sense because the Americans are starting to panic and, what does he say? DEFCON 5 or whatever the terminology that he uses. Then you kind of start to get it, but all throughout, it's so in the background that you're just like, it's really focusing on Bond in the foreground that it's like, oh yeah, right, World War III could happen if this actually goes through, this plan goes through.
Mm.
And I guess that that volcano has got protection from nuclear weapons, I'm presuming. From the fallout, I guess.
Well, it's more of... Yeah, I guess that is something else that's a bit of a... Like, what good is all that money going to do
when
in
most
that
of the
nuclear
Earth
hellscape?
is vaporized.
They might turn to other shiny things for currency.
Well, Goldfinger's plan didn't work out. So.
Right.
Yeah, so that is too bad that's kind of... Because right at the beginning, that's the opening sequence, right? Is the shuttle being captured and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And with the little toy man, it's coming, we're captured, like, and then it just drifts off only to appear again when Moonraker is filmed. Poor Moonraker, we sure beat that movie down, but just because it's kind of fun for being so dumb, right?
It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, you got some others that. I mean, I'll say the glaring one is the whole like transformation junk and how silly that is.
Yeah, that and also why would you blow your one agent's cover by having her marry Bond?
Mm-hmm.
And it's only for something that if the timeline wasn't sped up for the U.S. to shoot off another rocket, that it would have only been for 4 days. It just seems, I don't know, maybe I'm...
Too elaborate? Like, does it need to be that?
Well, that, but it's... Maybe she's not stationed there to begin with, but... I don't know, the way it came across was that she was kind of in the area, and like she knows these people, obviously, because they're like, hey, what happened to this person? Oh. Yeah. But it just seems a little unnecessary.
Got to shoehorn another female protagonist since they're killing off Aki. I don't know. And just again, I'm pretty sure Kissy is actually the main female lead in the book, so they're like, well, we got to get that character in there. I don't know. But could have married what does he say? A woman with a pig for a face or pig's face or something?
He kept on describing her.
Yeah, a couple of times. She's got a pig's face or something like that.
Well, I know that's like just trying to take the piss out of it, but
yeah.
It's just like,
yeah. How did you find the Japanese in the movie? Like, was it good? Like, was it?
Yeah, no, it was definitely
like natural.
It was definitely natural.
That's good
stuff. I can't speak for the Russian, of course, but
no, but just like at least the Japanese came across as feeling a movie acted, but as natural as it can be. That's good. Because there's a decent amount of Japanese in this movie. Like there's a few moments where Tiger's instructing somebody to do something, or even when Bond is quote unquote transforming, right? When Aki talks to the other girls in the
she's introducing this is my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So
so like there's a bit sprinkled in there. What about the sumo part?
I'm not like super familiar with sumo. I remember seeing a practice at one point, but I mean, it didn't look. I know the people there that were watching it were people that they filled in for it just to kind of make it seem like it was an actual event.
Yeah. I don't mind the scene. Like it's not out of place in the sense of Look at A View to a Kill with the horse racing. Look at, like, it's something we might see in some of these, Quantum, right, with the operatic performance.
Well, heck, even Man with a Golden Gun
Bottoms Up.
Wasn't thinking of that, but I was thinking of...
well, local delicacy. Were you thinking of the martial arts piece?
Yeah.
Well, even the boats, right? Like I guess the boats not so much, but anyways, yeah. I think it's definitely within the theme to show something cultural as a place to get information or whatever. It's not out of place in that sense. It is a bit weird when he goes in the back and all the guys are like preparing, and the conversation he has there is just so abrupt. Like it doesn't feel like it's needed, really.
Right.
It just doesn't, yeah.
Oh, this is how you got the ticket.
Just got to shoehorn this little bit extra in here rather than just showing up to the event itself. Oh, are you talking about the Thai kickboxing? That's what you're talking about?
That's what I was talking about.
Sorry, I was thinking of the martial arts scene.
Yeah, you had to make that joke about bottoms up.
I had to make sure I shoehorned it in there.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So it doesn't bother me either.
So yeah, it's not like a bad scene or anything. It's just kind of like, okay.
Mm. And then the little tidbit about at the beginning too with Moneypenny, Bond, at Oxford took foreign languages and was supposed to be pretty strong at that.
Mm.
So I like that. To get a little bit more insight to the character, and that comes up again in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other negatories you'd like to square in there?
Yeah, I would say it's just the big thing that I'd said before about it. There's just not a lot of feels like a lot of hooks to me on this one, so it's just kind of like, okay.
You don't like the poorly shot exploding volcano at the end?
Oh yes, that one that's up there for wow.
It's almost as bad as the GoldenEye reverse water thing for me. Like it's pretty bad. Like it really takes you out of the moment.
It's pretty awful. It's pretty awful.
It's too bad they couldn't actually get a decent shot of some volcano somewhere. But their saving grace is that it's night, really, like to try to mask it, sort of. But it's bad. It's bad.
Somebody didn't do a good job. No. Overlaying that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no. That's it. I don't know. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered more or less the whole movie. There's little tidbits here and there I'm sure we're missing, but one other thing I thought that I kind of like for continuity piece though is the guy that's doing the countdown in the control room is the same guy that was earlier in the movie. Remember when Bond went to Osato's and then he was the guy that was also at the table and helped check him in and everything?
Mm.
So I like that there was a little bit of that sort of, oh yeah, I saw this guy earlier. Okay, I get it. He either works for Spectre or is being pooled to work for Spectre or whatever. So it's like, yeah, that's good. A little bit of that continuity piece. The things you do for England. That's one of that line, like, I remember one of the first times I seen this movie, that line always stuck with me, like, just how silly it is. Gotta get that line in there. And
right.
For the type of moment that's coming up. Yeah. I could see that being a Roger Moore line at some point, too. I don't think he'd use that line, but Yeah, like the closest thing you had was the stupid, like, keeping the British end up or whatever.
Yeah.
Just,
oh boy.
That might even be, yeah, actually that's probably worse.
It's a bit more
crappy. I think that's worse. Yeah, I think I'm good. I think that's as far as I can take it.
All right. Well, the onwards to scores then.
Oh, sorry, I lied. There is one thing
Okay,
that just
never
came to
mind.
mind. Sorry.
No scores.
The shoehorning in of the sake discussion was kind of really
It's a bit of a Morsey.
and yeah, and just sort of Connery's delivery and he's like sake, like it's just this. What does he say? Like 98.3 degrees Fahrenheit or something.
Silly.
You're very cultured for a European.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this is just. It's not really bad, but it's just like couldn't Bond have been like taught this like instead of just the sort of arrogant. Yeah, I didn't really like the way it comes off.
I mean, it's kind of similar to his playful bit there in Goldfinger, talking about Dom Perignon.
That I kind of get though, but like I don't know, this just I don't know, like Japan seems so far away from the type of character he is and has been through the first 4 movies that I feel like he should have been a little more fish out of water, I guess, to some degree. Yeah, I get it. He has skills to speak the language and probably has learned some things, but I don't get the notion that he's necessarily been to Japan. And I could be wrong, obviously, but I don't know. It feels a little like I wish it was more him learning something there rather than oh, I already know, the best quality you can get with this. So, anyways, that's the last one.
Okay. Then onwards to the scoring. I obviously am not too keen on this movie.
I think you were far less critical than you're saying though. I'm sure your score is going to come a certain way, but
it's just so and it's not one I would feel would be a even a decent one to be like, oh, okay, let's I'm gonna kind of tank hard on this. I really am gonna sit it at about a 2.5.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, as I was thinking 3 or 2.5. Like I don't know. It just doesn't. It's just so bland to me in a lot of ways. I'm just like, and just the novelty, quote unquote, of being in Japan isn't really enough to kind of lift it up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I have a much harder time scoring this one because of that nostalgia piece for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is one I will go back and I can watch, and I don't mind watching at any time. I'm not saying it's a particularly great film. I could recognize that there's faults. I can recognize that there's far better Bond movies. But yeah, when you just have that itch that you're like, it's really hard not to say this is what it is for me. Like, but I can recognize why this would not be a good starting point for anyone jumping in, or even like an early on movie. I don't know if it's really necessarily a good point. And there's most people will point out that the cultural appropriation of putting Bond in as a Japanese person and stuff like, and I get that. But if I remove those kind of things, and just look at it as just like that spy adventure movie, I can see why it's not. Like you can tell they wanted to go out with a big bang. They wanted this to be a big deal, and it just falls a little flat.
It fizzles pretty hard.
Yeah, like it's too bad because they obviously had this grand idea for that volcano base, and they had ideas here that they just couldn't quite. And it probably doesn't help if Connery was having such a bad go of it, and so it put him in a foul mood, and then, you know, maybe the talk of him not wanting to come back. And so there's probably behind the scenes stuff that does affect the overall quality of the movie. And then if the screenplay wasn't as great, and just, there's probably lots of things that hold it back. So, this is hard. Like, I have a score in mind that I would like to give it, but I know it doesn't really equate to some of the factors that we've used to determine a score. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably still scoring it too high for most people, but I'm going to sit it at a 4.
Okay.
If it's just me personally, it would be a higher score than that still. But again, that's just because of my own personal history with it and so forth. But I still think there's something here that can be enjoyed. It's still an interesting bit of time capsule if you've been to Japan, or if you have interest in Japan, to see like some of these things that, you know, culturally looked a little differently then. Again, it's not perfect. It's still a movie, so it doesn't do it perfectly, but yeah. So kind of interesting to see what was supposed to be Connery's last movie, and so there's some of those factors that I think still make it worth a while. And some of the ninja stuff is fun and interesting, and there's still some interesting characters here. And even though it's not a great send off for the Blofeld character, at least, or you know, was supposed to be, still interesting to see like his introduction into the franchise, like his official introduction.
Yeah, as you were going on with that, I just think of the line from Futurama, that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is spongy.
The flesh is spongy.
I think
is that Doctor?
No. That's Zap Brannigan.
Oh, this is after Snoo Snoo?
The Snoo, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's the whole, that's how this movie feels to me. The spirit's willing, but
this movie's had too much Snoo Snoo.
Too much Snoo Snoo. So.
Well, that leads us to no more choices.
Yeah. No time to choose.
Yeah, no time to choose.
As we will cap this off with the most recent that wasn't even a part of this when I first started doing it.
Initially, yeah. But we decided to hang on and delay.
Yeah, I don't think that was quite.
No. But I will say this. It is nice to know that, not that we intentionally waited, but to have like some finality with the Craig arc, with, you know, him as Bond. So it adds a little bit of closure rather than, oh, geez, I guess we're going to have to tack this on later. So that's nice. Like, no matter how we fall, for scores and stuff for that movie, but just at least it's like, okay, there's a bit of closure there. So.
Never got closure from my adult films.
Well, you got a duology. You got to respect and be happy that you got that.
True. So, but yeah, I guess that's gonna be it. Any last comments on You Only Live Twice? Yolt?
No, I don't think I have anything else. Like I said, it's a little bit of a struggle to pick that score, but I think that's fair to still put a bit of the nostalgia twist on it for myself, but also a little bit of the realistic nature of the film as it is presented. So, yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily recommend to most, but I think if you've seen enough Bond movies, it's still interesting to see this maybe as your somewhere between 10 to 15 if you've seen others. So.
Okay, yeah. I don't know.
Listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah, I'd say listen to the soundtrack. That's good. Yeah, I don't know where I'd pin it to be like, yeah, it might be a time for this. Maybe to wash the mind of any of the more experiences, but
I just realized though that this director is also he did Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker too. Isn't that weird?
No, because I mean you see how it.
I find that weird because that's a big gap in time.
I mean, it's a big gap in time, but it's like, oh, big battle at the end. I mean, just seeing them play out, you just go from transpose the volcano with the sub, and then with the space station.
I suppose.
Cool.
I suppose, yeah.
So, but yeah, if you've seen it, and you disagree with either one of us there, and maybe this one's your favorite. I have questions, but
I suppose you'd be asking me these off air.
I'll be asking why. But I mean, there's just some things you can't account for, and the personal experiences are certainly going to play into that a bit. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that is it for Sushi Bee and myself, and we will return.